In the grand, chaotic tapestry of human connection, we like to believe that bonds are severed by Greek tragedies, betrayal, theft, or unforgivable lies. We are wrong. The true assassins of friendship are far quieter and infinitely more stupid. They are the improper usage of emojis, the chewing of potato chips at a decibel level akin to a jet engine, and the existential war over how to properly slice a sandwich. Welcome to the Museum of Petty Grievances, a curated exhibition of 50 relationships that died not with a bang, but with a passive-aggressive whimper. These are real, documented fracture points where the social contract didn't just bend, it snapped. Get comfortable. You are about to look into a mirror and you might not like who stares back. 1. The Orange Juice Heresy. We begin our descent into madness in the kitchen. To the average observer, the Oreo is a perfect, self-contained unit of joy, designed by the gods to be dunked in milk. Then there was the friend, if we can still use that term, who viewed this ritual with anarchy in his heart. He didn't reach for the dairy, he reached for the Tropicana. He dunked his chocolate cookies into a glass of pulp-free orange juice. This wasn't just a snack, it was a culinary hate crime. The clash of acidic citrus and synthetic chocolate cream created a flavor profile that can only be described as battery acid chic. His friend watched this unfold in silent horror, realizing he was sitting across from a man who operated outside the laws of God and man. The friendship ended not over a fight, but over the realization that some palates are simply too chaotic to be trusted around grandmothers or nuclear launch codes. 2. The Blue Shell Betrayal. Mario Kart is not a game. It is a psychological torture device dressed up in bright colors and whimsical music. The friendship in question had survived high school drama and college distance, but it could not survive the final lap of Rainbow Road. One friend, sitting comfortably in second place, acquired the dreaded Blue Shell, a weapon of mass destruction designed to punish success. He threw it. He threw it right before the finish line, obliterating his best friend's victory and sending him careening off the track into the abyss of space. The silence in the living room was louder than the explosion on screen. This was strategy. It was a declaration of war. The victim stood up, unplugged his controller, and walked out of the apartment. They haven't spoken since. Nintendo may claim to bring families together, but in the trenches of the 150 CEC Cup, they are the architects of eternal solitude. 3. The Unhinged Dry Cereal Protocol. Psychopathy often hides in plain sight, masquerading as efficiency. In this case, it revealed itself at the breakfast table. A man watched his roommate pour a bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, a respectable choice, only to realize the fridge was empty. There was no milk. A normal human would abandon the mission or eat toast. This roommate did the unthinkable. He proceeded to eat the entire bowl of dry, scratching cereal with a spoon. He shoveled the arid shards into his mouth, maintaining intense eye contact, the sound of crunching echoing like footsteps on gravel. It was the behavior of a feral raccoon trapped in a human body. The observer realized he was living with a chaotic entity who felt no pain and feared no dryness. He moved out shortly after, presumably to live somewhere where moisture is respected as a fundamental human right. 4. The K Text Catastrophe. In the digital age, punctuation is emotion. The crime scene here was a text thread. One friend had poured their heart out in a multi-paragraph essay detailing a personal crisis, a vulnerable exposition of their soul that took 20 minutes to compose. They hit send, waiting for the validation and support that defined their decade-long bond. The response came 3 hours later. It was a single letter, K. No period, no emoji, just the potassium symbol of dismissal. It is the linguistic equivalent of a door slam followed by a slow, dismissive fart. To the recipient, this wasn't brevity. It was an act of emotional terrorism. The sheer disproportion between the input, a novel of feelings, and the output, a consonant of apathy, created a rift that no amount of follow-up gifts could bridge. The friendship was archived permanently. 5. The Nickelback Schism. Taste is subjective, but some lines are drawn in the sand with reinforced steel. She had known her best friend for years, or so she thought. Then came the road trip. As the car hit the highway, the friend enthusiastically connected to the Bluetooth and queued up not just a song, but an entire discography. The artist? Nickelback. And she wasn't listening, ironically. She knew every word using the photograph voice unironically. She slapped the steering wheel in genuine musical ecstasy. The passenger sat in a state of catatonic shock, realizing that their entire shared history was built on a foundation of lies. How can you trust someone's judgment on relationships or politics when they voluntarily listen to Rockstar on repeat? The incompatibility was spiritual. The car ride ended at the destination, and so did the kinship. 6. The 10 MPH Traffic Vigilante. There is a special place in hell reserved for those who weaponize the speed limit, and this friend was the mayor of that district. He insisted on driving in the far left passing lane on the interstate. However, he refused to speed. In fact, he drove exactly 10 miles per hour under the limit, citing safety and prudence. Behind him, a convoy of furious motorists stretched to the horizon, flashing high beams and honking in a symphony of road rage. His friend, trapped in the passenger seat, withered under the psychic weight of being an accessory to this obstruction of justice. He tried to explain the concept of the passing lane. The driver refused to yield, claiming the moral high ground. The passenger realized he was friends with a man who exercised power by inconveniencing the world. He got out at the next rest stop and called an Uber. 7. The Pineapple Pizza Crusade. History is littered with religious wars, but few are as passionate as the battle over the Hawaiian slice. The order was placed for a shared pizza, a symbol of communal sustenance. Then, the betrayal. He unchecked pepperoni and checked pineapple. He didn't ask. He just did it with the confidence of a man who enjoys warm, wet fruit on his melted cheese. To his friend, this wasn't a topping preference. It was a violation of the Geneva Conventions. It signaled a fundamental disconnect in how they viewed the world. One believed in savory integrity, the other embraced chaotic sweetness where it didn't belong. Arguments about tradition versus innovation escalated until personal insults were hurled. The pizza arrived, but the friendship was cold. They ate in silence, separated by a border of ham and fruit that could never be crossed. 8. The Dream Police. We usually punish people for things they actually do. But in this case, the legal system of the subconscious took over. One person woke up in a cold sweat, furious. She had dreamt that her best friend stole her car and crashed it into a ravine, laughing maniacally the whole time. The emotion was visceral. The anger was real. The fact that the car was safely in the driveway was irrelevant. She called the friend, not to laugh about it, but to accuse her. I know you didn't do it, but you would, was the logic presented. The friend, bewildered and innocent of all crimes, tried to argue with dream logic, which is like trying to explain calculus to a goldfish. The accuser couldn't shake the bad vibes generated by her own REM cycle. The friendship was suspended pending an investigation into a crime that occurred purely in the imagination. 9. The Spoiler Assassin. There are rules to civil society, and do not reveal the red wedding is at the top of the list. One friend had managed to avoid spoilers for Game of Thrones for years, slowly working their way through the seasons. They were invested. They were vulnerable. Then, during a casual lunch, the other friend, knowing exactly where they were in the show, casually dropped the ending. He didn't just hint at it. He detailed who sat on the Iron Throne with the casual malice of a Bond villain. The betrayal was absolute. It stole hours of future emotional payoff. The victim looked at his friend and saw not a companion, but a thief of joy. You can apologize for stepping on a toe, but you cannot unring the bell of a ruined series finale. The watch has ended, and so has the bromance. 10. The Pedantic Actually guy. We all know one. The human Wikipedia editor who cannot let a conversational approximation slide. The group was having a fun, fluid discussion about 90s movies. Someone mentioned that Titanic came out in 1998. It was close enough for the context of the story, but he couldn't help himself. He pushed up his metaphorical glasses and cut in. Well, actually, it was released in December 1997, so technically. The air left the room. It wasn't just this one correction. It was a lifestyle. He corrected grammar and text, He fact-checked hyperbole. He was an exhaustion machine. The friend finally snapped, realizing that hanging out with him felt less like leisure and more like a doctoral defense. They stopped inviting him to trivia night, and then they stopped inviting him to life. 11. The Frugal Venmo Auditor. There is being careful with money, and then there is microscopic pettiness. Mike and his buddy shared a bag of chips, a standard bag likely costing $4. The next day, the friend received a notification. It was a Venmo request from Mike. The amount? 0.67. The memo line? Chip share plus tax. The friend stared at the screen, trying to calculate the sheer audacity required to type those numbers. It wasn't the money. He would have bought Mike 10 bags of chips. It was the principle. It was the transactional nature of a relationship that was supposed to be built on generosity. It reduced their bond to a spreadsheet of calculated debts. He paid the 67 cents, deleted the app, and blocked Mike on every communication platform known to man. 12. The Birds Aren't Real Truther. Conspiracy theories can be fun conversation starters until they aren't. Ideally, your friends are tethered to the same reality you inhabit. This friendship hit a wall when one person didn't just joke about the internet meme that birds are government surveillance drones. He believed it. He possessed the zeal of a convert. He would point at pigeons in the park and whisper, "Charging station." He refused to eat poultry because he didn't want to consume government microchips. The other friend tried to use logic, biology, and the sheer absurdity of the premise to talk him down. It was useless. The realization that he was hanging out with someone who viewed a sparrow as a spy became too exhausting. He slowly backed away, leaving the truther to his feathered paranoia. 13 is the Speakerphone Menace. Public spaces are shared environments that rely on a delicate social contract of silence. One friend, however, operated as a mobile broadcasting station. Whether they were in a quiet coffee shop, a crowded elevator, or walking down a serene street, all phone calls were taken on speakerphone. Volume. Maximum. The friend had to endure listening to the other side of the conversation, usually mundane details about medical appointments or grocery lists, while strangers glared at them with collective hatred. It was a stunning lack of self-awareness. The friend tried to intervene. "Put it to your ear," he pleaded. The response? "I don't like holding it." The refusal to compromise for the sake of public decency was the final straw. He could no longer be the sidekick to a walking noise pollution event. 14. The one-upper syndrome. Friendship involves a balance of sharing stories. With this guy, it was a competitive sport. If you mentioned you had a headache, he had a brain tumor scare in 2012. If you said you saw a cool dog, he once saved a pack of wolves from a burning forest. If you went to generic energetic Hawaii, he had been to a secret island that doesn't appear on maps. He was incapable of letting a moment belong to someone else. The exhaustion of constantly having your life experiences trivialized by his fabricated or exaggerated heroism became too much. The friend realized he wasn't having conversations. He was participating in a monologue where he was merely the prompt. He stopped sharing news and eventually the silence became permanent. 15. The Double Dip Disaster. Hygiene is the invisible glue of society. At a Super Bowl party, the atmosphere was electric. Then, the incident occurred. One friend took a chip, scooped up a generous amount of guacamole, and took a bite. That was fine. But then, as if possessed by a demon of bacteria, he plunged the bitten, saliva-coated chip back into the communal bowl for a second scoop. George Costanza warned us about this, but seeing it in real life was harrowing. The host locked eyes with the perpetrator. It wasn't just a party foul, it was a character flaw. It signaled a selfish disregard for the health and safety of the collective. The bowl was thrown out. The friend was uninvited from future gatherings. Some lines once crossed with a bitten tortilla chip can never be uncrossed. 16. The thumbs-up passive aggressor. We return to the digital battlefield. A thumb is a digit, a thumbs-up emoji is a weapon. The friend in question used it exclusively to end conversations that weren't over. You would cultivate a long, thoughtful text about a plan or a feeling, and the response would be that yellow, detached hand. It implies, "I acknowledge you spoke," And I literally do not care enough to type a word. It is the cool story, bro, of visuals. After receiving the thumb in response to a text about a family emergency, the recipient snapped. It was a symbol of minimalism that felt like maximalist disrespect. They realized that if their friendship wasn't worth a full sentence, it wasn't worth keeping. 17. The Netflix password adultery. In the modern era, the Netflix password is intimate. Sharing it is a sign of trust, akin to giving someone a key to your house. One guy gave his login to his best friend. It was a sacred bond. Then, he logged in one day to find his continue watching list polluted. Too hot to handle? Emily in Paris? He hadn't watched these. He investigated the account settings. There was a new profile named Tiffany. His friend had given the password to his new girlfriend without asking. It was a security breach. It was a dilution of the account's sanctity. The owner changed the password immediately, logging everyone out in a singular act of digital eviction. The text message explaining why was brief and brutal. Access denied. 18. The Parking Lot Princess. There is a special arrogance required to believe your vehicle is more important than physics. His friend drove a beat-up 2008 moderately priced sedan. It was not a show car. Yet, every time they went anywhere, he parked diagonally across two spaces. He claimed it was to prevent door dings. For his friend, getting out of the car was a walk of shame. He could feel the judgment of passing pedestrians. It was a monument to entitlement, a declaration that my mediocre car deserves double the real estate of your car. The embarrassment of being associated with such flagrant spatial selfishness eroded the friendship. You are how you park, and this man was a double-wide disappointment. 19. The Chew-Symphony Conductor. Misophonia is the hatred of specific sounds, but you didn't need a medical diagnosis to hate eating with this man. He didn't just chew, he orchestrated a performance. It was a wet, smacking, slurping affair that sounded like someone stirring macaroni and cheese with a plunger. He chewed with his mouth open, allowing the world a front-row seat to the mastication process. Dinners became torture sessions. The friend found himself cranking up the background music to drown out the biological noise. He tried gentle hints. Wow, those chips are crunchy. Nothing worked. The noise was a visceral assault on the senses. Eventually, the friend decided that he preferred eating alone in silence to dining with a human wood chipper. 20. The long story short liar. Time is our most non-renewable resource, and she was a thief. She had a verbal tic that paved the road to hell. Okay, so, long story short. This phrase should signal a summary. For her, it was the opening credits to a 3-hour director's cut of a story that wasn't interesting to begin with. Long story short would be followed by a 20-minute diatribe about a cashier who looked at her weirdly. She included details about the weather, what she was wearing, and the history of the grocery store. The listener would feel their life ebbing away, trapped in a narrative prison. After one too many short stories that lasted through an entire meal, he realized he could literally watch The Godfather in less time than it took her to explain her Tuesday. He cut the friendship short, for real this time. 21. The Ice Cube Tray Anarchist. It is a small thing, physically, but metaphorically, it is mountainous. The roommate dynamic collapsed over the ice cube tray. One person would take ice, leaving exactly one lonely, half-melted cube in the tray, and then put it back in the freezer empty. He refused to refill it. It forced the next person to do the labor before they could enjoy a cold drink. It was a cycle of domestic parasitism. The victim saw this not as laziness, but as a deep-seated belief that future mess problems are not present mess problems, and by extension, your problems are not my problems. The frigid resentment built up until the lease, and the friendship, shattered like ice hitting a warm floor. 22. The unsolicited spoiler of reality. This is a niche cruelty. They were supposed to go to a new, highly rated restaurant together on Friday. On Thursday, the friend went without him. That, in itself, is rude. But the crime was the report. He texted a full review. The steak was okay, but salty. The decor is weirdly blue. Skip the dessert, it's dry. He popped the bubble of anticipation. He stripped the experience of wonder before it even happened. It was a power move designed to establish dominance over the weekend plans. The friend canceled the reservation. He didn't want to eat the salty steak. He also didn't want to hang out with someone who treated joy like a checklist to be completed first. 23. The well-doneness of the steak. Some breakups are philosophical. He sat across from a woman he respected. They were at a steakhouse. The waiter asked for her order. She looked him in the eye and said, "Filet mignon, well done." "Butterfly it." The waiter winced. The friend died inside. Then the coup de grace. She asked for ketchup. To him, this wasn't a dietary preference. It was the desecration of a grave. It showed a lack of respect for the animal, the chef, and the concept of flavor itself. He watched her dip the gray, leather-like meat into the red corn syrup paste and knew he could never introduce her to his parents. Culinary compatibility is real, and this was an insurmountable divide. 24. The fry tax evader. The "I'm not hungry" lie is the oldest trick in the book, and he fell for it every time. She would order nothing. He would order a burger and fries. The moment the plate hit the table, her hands transformed into talons. She became a seagull. "I'll just have one," she'd say, causing a landslide that took 40% of his potatoes. This wasn't sharing. It was non-consensual redistribution of carbohydrates. It happened every single time. He started guarding his plate like a prison warden. The tension of defending his lunch ruined the mood. He realized she was outsourcing the cost of her appetite to his wallet. He ended it on the grounds of French fry larceny. 25. The impossible movie whisperer. The theater lights go down. The silence is sacred. The movie begins, and then the whispering starts. "I bet he's the killer. That's the guy from that other thing. Why is she going in the basement?" He provided a running commentary track that nobody asked for. But the worst part? He was usually wrong. He would loudly predict plot twists that made no sense. "Hi's definitely a ghost," he'd whisper about a character who was clearly alive and holding a sandwich. The friend spent $15 to watch a movie and $100 worth of mental energy wishing for a mute button on a human being. The cinema is a temple, and he was a heretic. 26. The borrowed book butcher. Books are vessels of the soul. He lent his friend a pristine first edition paperback of his favorite novel. He emphasized, "Please be careful with it." A month later, he got it back. It looked like it had been to war. The spine was cracked so hard the pages were falling out. There was a ring of coffee on the cover. A corner was dog-eared, folded over. And the clincher, a smear of what appeared to be marinara sauce on page 42. It wasn't just damage, it was disrespect. It showed that the friend handled someone else's treasured possession with the care one gives to a napkin. He never lent a book again, and he never lent his time again either. 27. The audio message rambler. Texting was invented to make communication efficient. Voice memos were invented to destroy that efficiency. The friend started sending audio files, not quick updates, but 5-minute podcasts. So anyway, I was walking down the street. Long pause. "Wait, is that a squirrel?" Anyway. The recipient had to stop what they were doing, find headphones, and sit through minutes of unedited stream of consciousness just to find out the meetup time was 7 p.m. It shifted the burden of effort entirely onto the listener. He decided he didn't have the bandwidth to be the producer of his friend's daily radio show about nothing. 28. The MLM Ambush. "Hey girl," the 3 scariest words in the English language. She received a message from a friend she hadn't seen in years. The excitement of reconnecting was instantly crushed when the next sentence involved being your own boss in essential oils. It wasn't a catch-up, it was a recruitment drive. The friend had been converted into a sales funnel for a pyramid scheme. Every interaction became a pivot to the product. "Oh, your head hurts? Have you tried this peppermint oil?" The realization that she was viewed not as a human, but as a distinct unit of downline revenue was dehumanizing. She blocked the number. She didn't want the leggings, and she didn't want the pitch. 29. The Scrabble lawyer, Quasi. Board games reveal character. During a game of Scrabble, tensions were high. Mark played Quasi for a massive score on a triple word tile. His friend Tom challenged it. Quasi is a prefix, not a standalone word. Mark insisted he'd seen it used. He became belligerent. He accused Tom of being afraid of his genius. They pulled out the dictionary. Tom was right. Mark refused to accept the authority of Merriam-Webster. He flipped the board, literally flipped it. Tiles scattered like hail. A friendship built on years of trust evaporated over 82 phantom points. If you can't lose with grace, you can't win at friendship. 30. The Regifting Detective. The cycle of gifts is sacred. She gave her friend a very specific artisanal candle, scented like old books and rain, for her birthday. It was thoughtful. 6 months later, it was her own birthday. She opened a gift bag from that same friend. Inside was the candle. Not a similar candle. The candle. The original handwritten note was still tucked under the lid. It was a level of laziness that verged on performance art. It said, "I don't value your gift. I don't remember your gift, and I assume you are too stupid to notice." She lit the candle alone that night, burning the bridge as the wax melted. 31. The Star Wars vs. Star Trek Galaxy. Tribalism runs deep. They were nerds and proud of it. But they were different species of nerd. One worshipped the Force, the other swore allegiance to the Federation. What started as a debate over tea turned into a screaming match about scientific accuracy versus space fantasy. Insults about Jar Jar Binks were traded for slurs about William Shatner's acting. They realized their worldviews were incompatible. One wanted a gritty space opera, the other wanted a utopian bureaucracy. They decided to partition their universe. The stars were big enough for both, but their living room wasn't. 32. The Cartographer of Fun. Vacations are for relaxing. Or so one thought. The other friend created a spreadsheet. It was color-coded, it had timestamps. 06 Quars AM, Sunrise Yoga Reflection. 14:15 p.m., mandatory gelato consumption. The friend treated the holiday like a military invasion of Italy. When the relaxed friend tried to sleep in, he was branded a traitor to the itinerary. The pressure to have scheduled fun sucked all the actual fun out of the atmosphere. The friendship died somewhere between the museum tour and the mandatory group selfie. He returned home exhausted, needing a vacation from the vacation. 33. The Dog Delusion. We all love dogs. But she didn't have a dog. She had a fur baby named Princess Sparkles who had never heard the word no. The dog was an untrained terror that jumped, nipped, and peed on carpets. Her response? She's just friendly. The breaking point came at a high-end restaurant. She brought the Chihuahua. It sat in her purse, yapping at waiters. She insisted it was a service animal for emotional support, though the only emotion it supported was rage. When the manager asked them to leave, she demanded her friend boycott the place in solidarity. He chose the steak over the yapper. 34. The Grammar Nazi. Language evolves. This friend did not. He was the whom police. If you said literally to mean figuratively, his eye would twitch. He interrupted stories to correct less to fewer. He wasn't listening to the content of your soul. He was proofreading your speech. The friend finally snapped after sending a text saying, "You're going to be late." The response was just "you're." The pedantry was a wall that intimacy couldn't climb. He decided he'd rather hang out with illiterate people who actually listened to what he was saying. 35. The Half-Biller. Math is impartial, but people are cheap. They went to dinner. The friend ordered 3 martinis and the lobster. He ordered a side salad and tap water. When the bill came, the martini drinker waved his hand magnanimously and said, "Let's just split it down the middle. Easier that way." No, it is not easier. It is theft. It is subsidizing his alcoholism with your frugality. The audacity to suggest an even split when the consumption was 80-20 is a financial aggression. He paid the split to avoid a scene, but he blocked the number before he even left the restaurant. 36. The Reply All Monster. Jennifer was in a group chat for a bachelorette party. 12 women. One friend, let's call her Karen, didn't understand how direct messages worked. She replied to every single administrative update with personal anecdotes meant for the bride. OMG, I remember when we were 12 and you puked on that roller coaster. Sent to a group of strangers. Jennifer's phone buzzed every 30 seconds for days. It was a digital avalanche of cringe. The lack of tech etiquette signaled a chaotic mind. Jennifer muted the chat, then left the chat, then left the friendship. 37. The love-to-hate hypocrite. Consistency is comforting. This friend laid out a detailed, passionate argument for why he hated the show Stranger Things. He mocked the writing, the nostalgia bait, the acting. He made you feel stupid for liking it. A week later, you met up. He was wearing a Stranger Things t-shirt. "Oh man, season 4 is a masterpiece," he said, eyes wide. He had no memory of his previous hate speech. The gaslighting was unintentional but infuriating. You can't bond with a weather vane that spins with every breeze of public opinion. 38. The Aux Cord Dictator. The driver usually picks the music. That is the law. But on a 6-hour road trip, Jessica seized control of the auxiliary cable. She didn't play a crowd-pleasing mix. She played her own obscure Depression-era indie folk playlist, 6 hours of ukulele and whispering. She refused requests. "It breaks the vibe," she said. The vibe was funeral for a hamster. The passengers sat in misery, their ears bleeding from the acoustic melancholy. They plotted mutiny. By the time they arrived, they were ready to walk home rather than listen to one more sad girl with a banjo. 39. The Toilet Paper War. Domestic harmony relies on small consistencies. The argument over the toilet paper roll, over or under, is usually a joke. Here it was lethal. One roommate was a staunch over advocate, the correct way. The other insisted on under, the sociopathic way, because cats can't unroll it. They didn't have a cat. The under roommate would actively flip the roll if he found it wrong. It became a silent battle of wills in the bathroom. The over roommate saw the hidden paper edge as a metaphor for the other's hidden, difficult nature. He moved out. He needed a roommate who respected the laws of physics and accessibility. 40. The Waiter Abuser. This is the ultimate litmus test. They were having a lovely time. Then the waiter brought the wrong appetizer. It was a simple mistake. The friend exploded. He berated the server. He used a tone reserved for disciplining naughty dogs. Is it that hard to write things down? The other friend sat in silent, mortified paralysis. He realized 2 things. 1. His friend was a bully, and 2. It was only a matter of time before that rage was turned on him. He paid the bill, left a massive tip to apologize for his companion's existence, and dissolved the partnership immediately. 41. The Joke Explainer. Humor is like a frog. If you dissect it, it dies. This friend was a serial killer of comedy. He would tell a joke or hear one, and immediately launch into a forensic analysis of why it was funny. See, it's ironic, because usually chickens don't cross roads for existential reasons. The pause for laughter was replaced by a lecture. He sucked the joy out of every punchline. Hanging out with him was like attending a seminar on fun instead of actually having fun. The group eventually stopped inviting him, preferring to laugh in blissful, unexplained ignorance. 42. The Slow Walker. The mall is a battlefield of pedestrian traffic. One friend walked with purpose. The other meandered. He walked at a glacial pace, stopping abruptly in the middle of the concourse to look at a cloud or a tile. He drifted left and right, cutting off families. The fast walker felt his blood pressure spiking. He spent the entire outing apologizing to the people bumping into them. He realized that walking pace is a proxy for how you process information and value time. The gap between them grew physically and metaphorically until he just kept walking and didn't look back. 43. The No Wave Driver. The courtesy wave is the glue of civilization. You let someone merge, they wave. It is the law of the asphalt. The friend was driving. Someone let him in during a difficult merge. He did nothing. He stared straight ahead. No hand raise, no nod. The passenger saw this cold-hearted omission. It revealed a soul devoid of gratitude. "Wave at him," he yelled. "Why?" "I'm in," the driver replied. That utilitarian ruthlessness was chilling. If he couldn't thank a stranger for a kindness, What else was he capable of? 44. The Phantom Wallet. Once is an accident, twice is a coincidence. 3 times is a strategy. This guy always forgot his wallet. He'd pat his pockets at the bar. Oh man, left it in the other pants. Can you get this? He promised to Venmo later. He never did. He had the newest iPhone. He wore expensive sneakers, but he was structurally incapable of paying for a taco. The friend realized he was being used as an interest-free credit card. The friendship was officially over when the moocher ordered top-shelf whiskey while looking for his card. 45. The Profile Picture Rebellion. Vanity is fragile. Sarah took a group selfie. She looked great. Her friend in the back, however, was mid-sneeze, eyes crossed with a double chin. Sarah posted it anyway. "Love my girls," the caption read. The friend asked her to take it down. Sarah refused. "But I look so cute in it," she argued. It was an act of supreme narcissism, prioritizing her own lighting over her friend's dignity. The friend reported the photo for harassment and blocked Sarah. If you can't protect your friend's digital image, you don't deserve their analog time. 46. The Copycat. Imitation is flattery, but identity theft is creepy. He told a joke in a group chat. It crushed. Everyone laughed. 2 days later, in a different chat with overlapping people, his friend told the exact same joke, presenting it as his own original thought. He was caught red-handed. His defense? Jokes belong to the ether, man. No. Jokes belong to the brave soul who risked the silence to tell them. The original joker realized his friend was a content scraper in human form, incapable of original thought. He ceased the supply of intellectual property. 47. The Passive-Aggressive Facebooker. Status updates used to be for news. For Ashley's friend, they were for warfare. Funny how some people claim to contain loyalty but are actually snakes. SM Maideich, who was the snake? It was a mystery. When Ashley asked, "Is everything okay?" the reply was, "I don't want to talk about it here." Then why post it to 500 people? The emotional manipulation was exhausting. Ashley realized she was trapped in a high school drama that never ended. She unfriended the drama queen to clear her feed and her mind. 48. The Airplane Clapper. The plane touches down, the tires screech, the pilot brakes, and then, from seat 14B, it begins. A slow, solitary clap that builds into a rhythm. His friend sat next to him, shrinking into the upholstery. The clapper looked around, beaming, trying to start a movement. "He just did his job," the friend hissed. "We don't clap for the bus driver." The clapper continued, oblivious to the cringe radiating from the cabin. The friend grabbed his carry-on and sprinted off the jetway, pretending he was traveling alone. 49. The Tupperware Thief. Kevin lent Dave his good Tupperware, the heavy-duty plastic kind with a locking lid. It contained lasagna. Dave ate the lasagna. But the container? It entered the void. Weeks passed. Kevin asked for it back. "Oh yeah, he'll bring it." He never did. It became a hostage situation. Kevin realized Dave had assimilated the Tupperware into his own collection. It was a breach of the borrower's code. Some plastic is thicker than blood. Kevin cut ties, willing to lose the friend to save his remaining kitchenware. 50. The Everything is a Sign Mystic. Magical thinking is charming in small doses. This friend overdosed. If she saw 2 red cars, it meant she would find love. If it rained, the universe was crying for her. She made life decisions based on the arrangement of tea leaves. Her friend, a fan of logic and cause and effect, tried to have a rational conversation about a job offer. "I'm not taking it because I saw a crow today," she said. The friend realized they were operating on different operating systems. One was running Windows, the other was running Ouija Board 2.0. He couldn't plan a future with someone who consulted birds for financial advice. Conclusion. In the grand theater of human folly, these 50 broken bonds remind us that betrayal isn't always about daggers in the back. Sometimes it's about pineapple on a pizza or a missing apostrophe. We are fragile creatures clinging to our preferences as if they were moral compasses. We draw lines in the sand over condiments and car lanes because, deep down, we need to know that the person standing next to us sees the world through the same bizarre, distorted lens that we do. And if they don't, if they dunk their Oreos in orange juice, well, they deserve to walk alone. If this list made you cringe, laugh, or silently block someone's number, you know what to do. Welcome to the club. It's petty here, but at least the grammar is correct.